Okay, we now believe that everybody's video is good to go. So, I think we'll just very briefly just go around and make sure that that's true. Okay, so can you see us in Bolingbrook?
Yes.
Bull Valley?
Yes.
All right, how about East Peoria?
Yeah. Yes.
How about Rockford? Was anybody in? Yeah, people were in Rockford. Wheeling.
Yes, we can hear you.
Still.
Can you see us? Yes, you can probably see it. How about this? How about the Illinois State Library? Can you see us?
Yes, we can.
Yay! And we can see you. It's awesome. All right. Okay. How about Kankakee?
Yes, we can see and hear you. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. How about LaSalle? Are you there, LaSalle? I heard something. How about New Lenox? I saw New Lenox.
Hi, I can see and hear you too.
Great. How about Quincy? Anybody there?
Yes, I'm here, and I can't see you, actually. It's just dark. But I can hear you just
we'll
fine.
Work on that. All right, great.
That's
and
okay.
You are?
Thank you. This is Melissa DeVerger. This is Melissa DeVerger from the Blessing Health Professions Library.
Great, welcome. How about in Sterling? Can you see us?
Yes, we can see you and hear you.
Great. And Sycamore?
Yes. See and hear.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, anybody in Western Illinois? Maybe not. And how about LaSalle? Did we get them up again yet?
Yeah, they're on now.
Can you see us, LaSalle?
Yes, we do.
All right. Okay. All right. So we'll just like rewind this a little bit. Okay. So back to the unserved. So as I was saying, this is a big issue. It's been an issue for a long time. During the break, Rick Ashton asked approximately how many people in Illinois are unserved, and it's about 1 million people, which I think is a lot. And it is everywhere. And we do have a map that we just did of resource sharing, the state of resource sharing in Illinois. And we want to show you this map, which we hope we will be able to do, which there we go. Now, this is mostly the rail. This is basically the rail service area. And I know you can't read it. That's okay. But we're getting them put up in all of our we're getting this map in all of our service centers. The point of this is that the colored areas, the different colors represent different consortia and LSAPs. The white area is unserved. All of that is unserved, and this is rails. So you can see that this is not just a Southern Illinois problem. This is a problem that is everywhere. So it affects everybody. I think it, as was discussed a lot at the ISLAC meeting last week, just to recapitulate, some of the issues, big problem is that, serving kids. You have kids who go to the same school, but they live, on different sides of the street even, and some of them are, in a taxed area, can use the public library, and some are not. Issue of sharing for cards was brought up, which also affects reciprocal borrowing, of course. So, as I said, this is an issue that we want to begin a conversation about. Perhaps we're going to need a formal committee or a team to look at, like we are having with the membership standards, which we'll be talking about later. So I think as I said, it's a big issue, and we need to look for a big solution, but I think we also need to look for ways we can incrementally improve this locally, sort of, even like pilot projects. And that is why we have asked a couple of our colleagues to talk specifically to this issue today, both Lee Ann Fisher from Moline and Lee Ann Johnson from Peoria. I know. So, Justin, I guess you could take that down and put the video of all of us up. And I think I will turn it over to Lee Ann Fisher of Moline to talk about her local legislator and what possibilities might be out there with that. Are you there, Leanne?
Yes, I am. And I agree that in this day and age, I think it's appalling that we still have citizens that are unserved. And in our particular case, people who have a Moline address or a zip code drive past the library twice a day to go to the high school, and they're not eligible for a card. So I started looking for a solution that way. And we had a past board president pass, and her daughters were aware of the situation, so they wanted to honor her by maybe making grants to the high school students to get them cards. And we realized very quickly that if we charged the non-resident fee, that their money wouldn't go very far. So we talked about that, and they decided to go another way with their money. But in the talking to the Johnson sisters, they said, something needs to be done. And Kate Johnson knows a state senator, and she said, I'm going to mention this to her. Now, she's not local to me. She doesn't represent us here in Moline, so it gets a little tricky that way. But Melinda Bush is very interested in helping that cause. So I immediately called Dee and Kip, because that's swimming in deeper waters than I'm used to as a public library director. So, we're working on that. I think it'll be on the agenda for PPC on Monday to maybe be one of our directives in the way that we want to go with ILA. But in the meantime, what we've done or are working on, nothing's finalized yet to solve some of these problems. One of the things we've done is we've started a reciprocal borrowing with Western Illinois University, who has a campus here in trying to serve their students. So we did a reciprocal borrowing with them. With the high school, we're looking at a different way to go in contracting for service, where the school district would pay the Moline Public Library in order for all of their students to be eligible for a card. So we're still in the process of researching that and seeing how that goes. But we're doing our best here to try to make sure that everybody has library access of some sort. Any questions?
Great. Questions, anybody?
Well,
Yes, we have a question here. Meg, speak up.
okay. This is the South Holland Public Library, and we have schools. All of our schools are not just South Holland people. They're from all the neighboring libraries or library districts, or their kids are unserved totally. And we felt that because we've gone to electronic databases, and the use of our electronic databases is limited to those with South Holland library cards, we were having trouble because we go into the school systems and say all the kids should be using our databases for their reference questions, and yet they had no access unless they came into the library. So what we did was we're doing a soft rollout as well of a pilot to give every child, regardless of what community they are in, access to our databases from home or from wherever. We're just trying it out to see if it's going to be a popular thing. And we're going out and teaching the kids what it is that this means, what they'll have access to. The reason this is important to us is that we've made made the decisions that everybody else is making to get rid of our reference sections or interfile, or most of the materials, interfile the rest of them. And we're trying to go electronic with things. And a lot of the electronic stuff is restricted to only our use. So we can't do reciprocal the way we would with almost anything else. So we're in a bit of a conundrum with that. The other thing is we're on the border with Indiana, and there are teachers who teach in our schools that do not have Illinois library cards and never will. So we've also worked with the school system to supply library cards to teachers only for the year that they're teaching, or the time that they're teaching. So we're trying to hit it sort of piecemeal as well. I just wanted to put that out there.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes, we're lucky that way in that in Moline, only Moline people go, and we only have the one high school. But we also sit on the Mississippi River, and in fact, RiverShare has Illinois libraries and Iowa libraries, so we're familiar with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just another level of degree of difficulty with with the other state, that's for sure. So, Mary, did you want to say something?
My
Just speak up.
question is with databases, you know, when I sign a contract or on databases, it's based on service area or library cards, and the vendors are serious about my numbers, and that if I serve beyond what I said, I'm in violation of their contract. So how do you go around that?
We're just trying it out now.
Okay.
We're not going to do this officially until we have passed a policy on it. We're trying it out for a year, and then we're going to go back to the vendors and say, look, this is the impact, but right now we don't know what the impact's going to be. And our vendors, if I remember properly, are doing it by service area, which means 22,000 people. We only have 7,000 to 8,000 library card holders, so we're nowhere near going to violate it or go in excess of 22,000. So it's a little bit of a workaround, shall we say. We'll see how it goes.
Meg, if I could say something, Paul Mills, Fountaindale, I don't want to speak for other libraries, but I did hear them say it. I think it's Skokie Public Library actually negotiates directly with the vendors for incorporation of the school districts that are served.
And we will do that if we have
so
to.
there is precedent for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. But there's no point in doing it until we're sure that it's actually.
Oh, right.
Lynn, I have a question. This is Kathy Parker from Glenwood Linwood. Was the senator surprised that there were so many unserved?
Yes. Yes. And I had also tried our local alderman first to see if we could solve it on a local level. And of course, their stance is no pay taxes, no get service.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
It's another question from Meg.
Are they looking at increasing, requiring local taxes to sponsor all libraries, or are they thinking about making it a part of an Illinois tax, or
Who's
what are
they?
The legislators.
Oh, the
that you're speaking
legislator.
with. How is the funding? How are they looking at funding? They were going through the county, or because you did mention that you were using the local college. I know that DuPage County community colleges issue a library card that can be used reciprocally in DuPage County. How are they structuring it?
Well,
for
with
money?
our reciprocal borrowing, Western has a very nice campus here, and what we do first is, of course, considering we think most of those would be local since they don't have dorms and stuff, is that they would be eligible for a River Share card in the first place. So we encourage them to get their home card first, and then they're entitled to all the services River Share has. But if the students who don't have that service, then, you know, they can use the reciprocal borrowing. As with the unserved and the state senator, I think, again, that's a bigger fish than I can fry, but they realize that it'll probably take a legislative ruling to overrule that, and I think they're looking at what we did with the community colleges several years back and trying to follow that formula, if I recall correctly.
This is something that PPC is going to be looking at too. This is definitely something that ILA needs to be involved in, actually, and of course wants to be involved in. Yes, Kathy.
I'm Kathy from Chicago Ridge, and years ago I was on the advocacy committee, and I worked with Philk.
Not that many years ago.
What was Philk called?
Future of Illinois Library Cooperation.
Okay.
Right.
And during all those meetings, one of the things that Gail Bush brought up, and she and I had looked into, was using the community college structure that's already in place as the mechanism to serve the unserved. And from just listening, it sounds like that's already happening in DuPage.
It is. There is. It's uneven. Actually, last year PPC did a survey of community colleges to see which ones offered service to to non-students, non-clients, I guess. And there are some that do and some that don't. So there's certainly some possibility there. Okay. But it still is about money. I think that's really what it comes down to.
But everybody in the state pays taxes to a community
exactly.
college, so it makes sense.
Yes.
It's already, the mechanism's already there.
The mechanism is already in place, and
right.
It seems like a logical, even if it's an experiment moving forward. I think it's a structure that's already in place, so we're not reinventing the wheel or trying to create a new service when we already have a structure in place.
Right.
Okay.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me, too. So I'm going to ask Leanne Johnson now to talk about Peoria.
I don't have any unserved around me, so.
It's another local example. And then I would also like if Ann Craig, I think, would probably like to say a few things about it potentially when Leanne is done. So take it away, Leanne Johnson.
Thank you. Peoria Public Library has, first of all, an intergovernmental agreement with Peoria School District 150. That intergovernmental agreement's been in place for about a year and a half. Part of this intergovernmental agreement outlines what kinds of things the school and the library work together on. And one of the things that Peoria Public Library said they would do is send staff to the schools to do programs, story times, and to do, as South Holland has done, some training or teaching or bring awareness to the various databases and our website. And that's when we realized we needed to do something more immediate about the students in District 150 who live in unserved areas. West Peoria is an unserved area, is the largest unserved area, although there are 3 unserved areas in close by Peoria. And 3 schools are impacted significantly: Whittier, Calvin Coolidge, and those students then eventually end up at Peoria High. The challenge was that West Peoria sits between Peoria and Alpha Park. Over the years, we've both tried to contract with West Peoria to get some kind of library service going. West Peorians believe that they live in Peoria, so they are frequently upset with us in that we don't provide free library service to them. Because we already had an intergovernmental agreement, we started looking at how we might extend that intergovernmental agreement, and we ended up with an addendum to our intergovernmental agreement, just strictly addressing these unserved students. We're not talking about thousands of students. We're talking about, I think, under 500. And these cards that we do provide are strictly for the students. And they get full library service, but it is driven by the fact that they need to be able to access databases just like those in South Holland. So working with, having some discussions with the state library staff in terms of how do we do this. This is, we're very much aware that what's expected by West Peoria is that we provide free library service. They don't pay to a library. They don't want to pay to a library. And so the burden of this was going to fall on the library and District 150. We have, as part of our agreement, that the District 150 will provide some kind of compensation, it's mutually agreed upon, to Peoria Public Library, and for that we provide library cards to the students in unserved areas. We just started this last May. We have, I think at this summer, during our summer reading program, we had about 100 students signed up who would not have been able to sign up for our program in the past. The compensation we got from District 150, one of the things that we do with District 150 that we're working toward is cooperative programming, bringing in speakers and authors, and they visit the schools and they do public programs at the center. So the compensation this year was that District 150 provided an author for a public program. This author was also brought into District 150 for their teacher kickoff that they do at the beginning of every year. And the night before their kickoff, we had their author for a public program. The author, this blew us away, was Will Haygood, who wrote the book The Butler that the movie is based on. And so we did a Q&A with Will Butler on a Wednesday night and then watched the movie and then did another Q&A after the movie. It was fabulous, and we would not have been able, as the public library, on our own, be able to bring in Will Butler for the fee that he gets for his visits. I think that one of the things that worked for Peoria Public Library with this is that we're working with a fairly small unserved population in terms of just the students. We focused specifically on that. We were addressing a specific need, and we already had the intergovernmental agreement in place. So we added on to that intergovernmental agreement. We have the ability to tweak that as we need to along the way, but basically that's what we have going right now.
Thank you, Leanne. That's a very interesting program, too. I think, these creative ways of dealing with it locally. I mean, it's not a big solution, but it helps. And I think it's, 500 kids who are getting library service who wouldn't otherwise. So any questions or comments for Leanne at this point? Anne, would you like to say anything from the perspective of the state library on this issue?
Thanks, Dee. I'm not sure what we can add to the conversation at this point. Our office is always interested in this issue, is always interested in library service for every single citizen in the state of Illinois. As we discussed yesterday, it seems there are a couple of issues that might be things we could nibble at, or libraries could nibble at. One would be the issue of getting library cards for children, which sounds like there are already some really creative ways to at least help with that problem. And then some clarity about who is unserved, who is a reciprocal borrower, what are those definitions. I think in our rewrite of the administrative rules, it certainly became clear that there's a lot of confusion out there about exactly what the difference is, who can buy what kind of card. So we think that clarity around reciprocal borrowing and the unserved non-resident cards, we think that may, I know that it will help get anyone served who's currently unserved, but at least bring some understanding to some of these very complex matters. So I guess maybe it would be easier if we just took questions from the people on this video conference.
Okay. Questions here in Burr Ridge? Yes, Mary.
The hardest part is
Just speak up.
The unserved non-residents in the library shopping. You know, I would like to see, maybe we start with the ruling on what they're allowed to do. Can they shop around? Could somebody way over in the unincorporated justice area decide to buy a card in my area because based on because we're the tax bill method, that we get a little different type of service. You know, so I think that is where we're finding our unserved is they want to shop around to find out what they're going to get more bang for their buck. And I think there's got to be some kind of leveling of standards of who can buy how far away from your service area, because I don't think it's fair to some of the more contiguous, why should, I would think justice, let's say, unincorporated would be very upset that their people jumped all the way, 10, 15 miles to me to pay when it could have been revenue for them. So I would like to see that being discussed for one, the ones who are willing to pay for unserved, and where can they shop, or is there a standard fee or whatever. That would be helpful. I think a lot of my people would be able to purchase if they knew where they could go. There's no real rules. I think that
and I think we're aware that there's a great deal of confusion around the purchasing of non-resident cards. I don't know, but I think the intent of the rules as they were written was supposed to be pretty clear that shopping for cards wasn't supposed to happen, but we hear loud and clear that it is happening. So, when
the rules were drafted to take into account the changes in the non-resident language that the General Assembly enacted in 2002, I believe, sought to address that by adding the language about the card shall be issued to the closest library, and it defines what insert parameters what that is, and encourages libraries in areas where it's harder to establish and define closest should get together and come to an agreement that, well, if you live in this area of an unserved area, we're your closest library. If you live in this area, they're your closest library. And the rules encourage the systems to play a part in encouraging this agreement between the libraries in an area.
Where it's not clear.
Right.
But where it is clear,
it's clear.
There was an attempt in the rules that were written to prohibit that kind of shopping for cards. Again, coming back to this sort of, I think as a library community, we need some clarity around many of these facets of the administrative rules, not just for the non-resident rules, but also reciprocal borrowing. I think that's again and again what's pointed to.
Veranda, did you want
to? I just wanted to say really quickly, I just want to, or just let everyone know or remind folks who may not already know that that's the role, for those of you with questions, because there are always super sticky issues that come up around this. Someone wants to use the library because it's closer to the Walmart they go to, etc. We're the resource sharing department. Myself and my colleague Amanda are here to help you with those particulars. So you can always contact us, and I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about the clarification and how I can assist you with your particular.
Well, the problem is not the library saying no, it's the patron coming back at you saying, my kids stay with their grandparents, they're there all day long, why would I pay for this suburbs when if I want to serve my children, because they spend 40 hours a week in this community. And then it's then going back to the parent saying, if she's willing to pay whatever library it is, why can she not have a choice? Because this is no longer your walking community law. This is people who are now mobile to the point of they're split families. I mean, there's a lot of factors that nothing has been really put into this legislation.
We've even addressed cases of one parent has custody and spends weekends with another person, and we can help you. I'd rather
talk to the patron, because
I've talked to a couple of patrons.
Answer that.
It'd be better if the library talked to them, but I have talked on the phone and helped libraries brainstorm language with them to help them provide excellent customer service around these kind of issues to keep you in the parameters of the non-resident law. I'm not saying I can do it every time, but I'll try.
Is there any energy around an actual statewide solution for mandatory library service?
Are you asking that of the state library?
I'm just asking.
Is there any energy around it? Well, as I say, I think ILA and PPC are going to take this up again. I think the sticking point is that it's going to take money. I think, ultimately. But as I said to Ann yesterday, I do think it's the best way to be prepared is to have a plan in your back pocket, to have a solution so that if money does show up, or if, it's easier to advocate for something, money for something specific as opposed to money for something. So, but I don't want to speak for the state. I mean, that's just my opinion about energy. What do you have to say, Ann? What do you think?
Well, the tenor in Springfield right now, I would say, is not one that would be warm and friendly toward an additional tax, statewide tax, coupled with the fact that the way libraries are funded is local taxes, so this would be local property taxes. I just can't imagine that there would be the kind, and I'm not saying there wouldn't be, but it doesn't seem like this would be the time to talk about instituting universal public library service in Illinois that's somehow supported by state dollars. I don't know how that could happen. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't, as a community, try to find some solutions for some of the the related issues like getting library cards for children and bringing some clarity to exactly how do people buy the cards that they buy. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't work on those things, or as you said, Dee, have a plan in the wings if there ever is such an environment. And I don't know, Lauren, if you want to say anything.
No, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
Did you have a follow-up?
I wasn't talking about state money. We all live in a school district. We all live in a community college district. We all live in a county. I'm talking about a state-imposed local requirement.
Well, here's what I think. I think we're not going to solve it today, but I think it's really.
I thought that's how I came from.
It would make my job easier.
I know, but I think I know that's brilliant, isn't it? We're not going to solve it today, but I think hearing about some local solutions, talking about. There's just so much to unravel, too, So, I think that we really need to put a group together to look at, solutions at a high level and then, more practical things. So, I think that, and, certainly, I think that it would need to be inclusive of Heartland and the State Library as well. So,
well, if we don't do something now, we'll drop another 5 years.
I know, and
it's never going to get resolved if we don't start somewhere.
Right, and so much good work has already been done on this that, and I'm sure I think there are probably, there's at least a half a shelf full of documents related to this, and I think we need to dust those off and see what still applies. So, so that's what I'm thinking that we need to do, and so I think Rails will. I think we'll talk with our colleagues at the State Library and in Heartland to see how, and ILA, which is a very important partner here, to see how we might at least start to move this forward. Does that make sense to everyone, more or less?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think. We could talk about this a lot longer, and I don't mean to cut off the conversation, even though I essentially am, but we have another really easy thing that we're going to talk about now that I know is of great interest to everyone. So we're going to move on to the membership standards agenda item. So this is also something that came up in our strategic plan. Just to give you a little history here and a little context. Before the merger of the systems into Rails and Heartland, there were different sets of standards in different systems. I think I've been told that the Metropolitan Library System had the strongest standards. I could be wrong about that, but I think that might be true. And when the merger happened, there was discussion about standards, but because of the sheer amount of work just getting the systems merged, that was something that got the subject got put aside for a better day, and so the better day has now dawned. And also, we see Rails staff, Rails people that I talk to, members see continuing and growing problems related to, I'll just say, a deterioration in public library service, especially is what I see, because of a lack of strong standards. I'm not saying that we don't do lots of great resource sharing. We do, but I think when people aren't trained, or whether it's in education or just on the training through continuing education programs, etc., they don't understand what resource sharing means or other very important things, then they're not going to be able to do it effectively. So I'm not proposing that everybody who is a public library director in Illinois should have a master's degree. That is completely not possible at this point in time. It may never be possible. But there are, our neighboring states, namely Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. Michigan, Wisconsin. They have tiered systems in place, for certain size library or library budget, whatever library populations served. You have, certain requirements. There could be training requirements. I'd like to see. We have, great partners that we could call on, the library schools, College of DuPage, others that already do library-related education that, I think could really, that's where I think we need to focus. Is like a tiered system, different tiers and then training that people would be given freely, I hope. We want to make it as easy as possible. It's all about the library service. This isn't about, any kind of, punishment. This is about making sure that local communities are getting the best library service they can. And that requires training. Let's see, what else I want Veranda. Veranda's going to talk for just a few minutes about she's just going to remind us what the current standards are, and she's going to just for some of you who may not be aware, just give some examples of the things that people don't know. People with the best will in the world, they really want to do a good job. This is not about people who don't want to do a good job. They want to provide service, but they don't have the tools. So we want to give them the tools. And I also want to say that this is something that we need to do with this, again, with the State Library and with Heartland. These are issues that affect everybody. So you want to take it away, Veranda?
Yes, just for a few minutes. So thank you.
Yes.
So one thing I quickly just want to say is, so the membership standards as they are reflect also what is in the administrative code, and came about to provide, because they are cross-library type, it's important to note as well. And with the merger going on, it was a way in which to get through those difficult merger things and find a safe ground for everybody to be engaged in Rails. So library to follow the ILLINET Interlibrary Loan Code, have a bibliographically organized collection, have at least one employee who works at least 15 hours a week, so someone has to be paid, they can't be a volunteer, have permanent financial support, be accessible centrally, and occupy identifiable quarters in a principal location. Now, those are the criteria cross-type. There are a few other specific criteria that relate to public libraries, like meeting taxing level and participating in reciprocal access and reciprocal borrowing. So it's a pretty base level membership criteria, and we have quite a diverse membership. And what our role is to support them. And again, these are the libraries with the best of intention, and we want to support them in resource sharing and being good neighbors, library neighbors to all of you, which is our role. And just to clearly, and we work really closely with the State Library as a partner and supporting this, facilitating this cooperation between libraries, but until it's absolute, we always work with these libraries confidentially, just so that they feel comfortable talking to us. I want to be sure that everybody knows that. So, for example, in one site visit that I did recently, the library had a sign up that said, please sign in with your name every time you come in. So it was a public library, so I said, hey, why do you want people to sign in? It's like, well, we need that to report it to the state. And it's like, no, actually, they just want to know how many people come, not the, names of the people.
This is for IPLA, right?
Yeah, and so it was a case of, you are, and I mean, this may sound, I was trying to kind of position it in a way that would work for this particular person. I'm like, people are coming to you sometimes for really personal things that they need, and sometimes they may not want people to know that they've been here. And it's, this is a small town too. People complain about it a lot. And I'm like, yeah. I said, you don't sign in at Target. Don't make them sign in here. We all know it's like, you're going to, obviously you approach it a particular way. One library director I was talking to, again, public, specific, and not that this is just a public library issue, I don't mean to imply. I went to talk about some specifics with her. I said, as we discuss collection development a little bit more, and she's like, what is that? And I said, okay, let's take a little step back. And again, these are people, they're coming to the table and talking to us because they want to do better. They are really important parts of the communities that are in. They're in sometimes because there maybe aren't other economic opportunities in the community, and they're really like the glue for that community. One member, as we talked before about non-resident issues, as each library is required to renew their non-resident policy June 30th on the Rails website every year. This particular library director, who was new and again had the best of intentions, didn't know what it was, but we talked through what it was, and part of our role oftentimes is just to support people so they could have a resource to talk these issues through with, because they're the director. We talked it through and how it would be approached with the board. And I'm delighted to say this particular director shared that information with their staff and now has really strong non-resident questions. And she's like, I've told my staff, we can't give people free cards when they're not taxed. So they're doing it in the proper way now, have cleaned up a lot of these issues, and are really working to be a good partner in the community. And from what I've seen, and when we talk with colleagues in other states, again, as Dee mentioned, it's really around an opportunity for us to help them be good resource-sharing neighbors, and for us to better provide support and training for them. Because, frankly, we do often, again, we facilitate resource sharing, so if sometimes we work with libraries who may be more sophisticated in helping them support their neighbors. And we always approach it with assuming good and work, this isn't like a ratting other libraries out system. So those are a few examples today.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I think you can see that, one size fits all approach does not work.
Really
it just not right. So this came up a lot in our strategic plan also. And so Rails is actually establishing a committee to work on this, and Kathy Parker is going to chair the committee, and she's going to talk now about what she sees happening and just a general approach to the work.
Thanks, Dee. Yes, we've talked about this. It's the conversation that Dee and I have had for a long time, actually, since I've been on the board. And so this committee now has come to fruition, at least in the planning stage. So what we're going to do, Rails will be doing a call out probably within the next 2 weeks, would be my guess. And looking for members for this committee. I envision it to be a very large committee, possibly. I think that we have a large service population of multi-types, and we need representation from all of those entities. Publics, very much so, but also with the academics, the schools, and the specials. We have, things, school librarians are being cut. That's the control we don't really have because it's administration, but we still have to have those conversations. And so we're looking for members in, the metropolitan areas for the public libraries, definitely in the rural areas, very much so in the rural areas, because those are areas that tend to be a little less in the standards because they just can't afford maybe to hire someone or don't know. Ultimately, also looking for some trustees, not just Rails board trustees, but trustees from the member libraries. Our Rails board is fairly informed. We meet every month. We have a higher level of knowledge based on having conversations with the state library and, as just what Dee shares as a system, but the member library trustees maybe don't have that knowledge. So we definitely want to engage them as well. The basic timeline, I'm thinking if we can get a call out and then possibly start getting people volunteering in the month of October, before ILA. I like to start sooner than later, but that probably will.
Tomorrow.
I do. I already have an idea. I want to go. I got things to do. But we do have ILA in the middle of October, and then I'm going on vacation, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So that's really why I want to get going. So we're doing call out. I envision a meeting starting probably sometime in November after I get back from vacation.
You've already sort of.
I have, because I had to be realistic. We also certainly, while this is rails driven at this point, we definitely want to include Heartland, representation from the State Library, and hopefully CPL if they're interested, because while we're talking about rails as a committee, this really does have a statewide impact, and it's something that we have to have the other members in the state have some input on, because it does, Heartland has a lot of very rural libraries, and it's going to affect them. If we have one standard, they may want to be included in that, because we want to kind of share that information. I'm envisioning this committee to have a lot of conversation, a lot of discord and discourse, as I had said, but ultimately it's about serving our members, and the system serving our members, and then the members serving their community. Right. So we really need to have the best service possible, because that's why we're here. So look for something, I guess, in the next 2 weeks, I'm guessing, next email or e-news. So any questions?
Yes, we're very interested in your feedback on issues, on approaches, on.
Yeah, we're open to anything at this point.
And we know, we need to get a lot of information too. We do have the old system, the previous system standards. We have examples from other states. We need information about school libraries and academic libraries, special libraries, et cetera.
This will be a working committee.
Yep.
This isn't going to be, we get to be on a committee and we're all going to have, bonbons and soda. We're going to work. So, Meg, you had a question?
No bonbons?
Well, we'll have bonbons.
We can work.
We're going to have chocolate.
Put your hands.
There will be chocolate involved if I'm sitting on any committee, put it that way.
Okay. You mentioned other states, and that's what occurred to me. I know the state of Washington has a requirement, I think Oregon, have a requirement that you be certified in the state for whatever it is you're doing. So I'm just hoping that some kind of certification, because that kind of keeps everybody honest.
North Carolina has it too.
Yeah. And it costs money, so you have to bill for it, but otherwise it's good.
Well, we're going to be looking for a lot of information and bringing all these ideas to the table, hopefully. And, while a master's degree is an obvious for some communities, some libraries, that's not possible for everybody.
Yeah,
so,
well, the certification.
So looking at the certification, whether it's a system certification or a state library, however we work that. But yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
So let's go out to the sites, to the different sites, and see what people have to say about this. Any comments in Bolingbrook? Or questions, suggestions?
Nothing in Bolingbrook right now, Dee.
Okay, thank you. How about in Coal Valley?
No comments in Coal Valley, Dee.
How about East Peoria?
Questions, funny stories. We have neither comments, questions, nor funny stories.
Nothing? Wow, okay. Rockford?
I think we're good, Dee. We will watch for further information coming. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane. You're a school librarian, is that correct?
Yes, I am. So I am very interested in this.
I'm
oh yeah,
you
put me on the spot.
Yeah. What? I mean,
I'm not
what
sure
would
how.
Be,
Go ahead.
What would be? Well, I'm wondering, what would be something that you would like to see as a school librarian?
Well, I am very concerned about the current very low level of requirement for school people, because I just think that with the school financial climate in the state of Illinois, that if the superintendent's word gets around, then they no longer have any reason to keep a certified school librarian in their employment, other than, the things that we can bring to the table and the marketing that we can do within our own district. There is no level of recourse if they were to let us go. So that is very concerning to me.
So ISBE used to have standards and now they don't, or did they ever?
I don't think they ever did. It only came from the systems, if I understand it correctly. And I mean, there was something that said that each high school had to have a certified librarian, but I don't think that's in place anymore either. So it's a scary world out there. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's not controlled. It's controlled
Yep.
by this.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me put you on the spot. How about Wheeling?
Yeah, hi. I have a question. This is Scott Davis in the Fremont Library. Specifically in regards, I guess, to public libraries, how would these system standards differ from the large set of standards we already have to follow in the form of serving our public, standards for Illinois public libraries? Right now I'm working on my per capita grant, and there's Chapter 7, collection management, that we have to answer a variety of questions about. So we already have this kind of thick book full of standards. Do you see the membership standards for the rails incorporating that, or being different from that, or in addition to those standards we already have to follow?
Scott, I see this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rail staff D, as more in the administrative level. So, serving our public is about the library itself and how we're, what we're providing out to the public. But the membership standards would be more geared towards the administration of the library. The people who are running it, the directors, that person have the training to know what reciprocal borrowing is, or that they have to do when their levy is due to their county, or things of that nature, the things that really require running a library. That the per capita grant is due. What if they aren't signed up for the Illinois State Library e-news and don't know that the per capita grant is due in whatever day in October it's due? I should know that, but I haven't looked at it yet. So, things like that. There's so much of that we're seeing that a lot of libraries don't know. And that's impacting how they're, doing the service. What if a library director left and didn't leave any information, and the person coming in had no idea that they had to levy and when it was due? I don't know what in the counties you're in, but necessarily Cook County doesn't call and say, "Hey, you forgot to do your levy." Actually, Bill Vasilopoulos does do that, but for some communities. But if you don't know that, then you don't get your money, and that's a huge thing to have to know. But if you don't know about your levy, where do you learn it? If you're not in library school, where you learn it, and some library schools don't always teach everything you need to know. So it's really about in the administrative level.
And I think those standards are great. They're not standards. They don't.
They're suggestions.
Yeah, they're guidelines. They're not. There's nothing that says you have to do that to be a system member. And I guess that's really what we're talking about here is. Veranda said what you have to do to be a system member. You have to have a 15-hour-a-week paid employee. We joke, that, my home could be a lot, we could be a system member. Well, of course, I'm a librarian, but we're trying to take those kinds of qualitative guidelines and give them some more teeth, I guess, is essentially. We're not looking to give you a thicker book. We're just trying to, apply them more effectively, I guess, to improve library service.
Did I answer your question, Scott? Sort of?
There is a chapter in that book on management, so I guess maybe it's a good starting point to incorporate what's already in there.
I wish every library could do everything that ILA recommends in serving our public, right? But they don't. They don't have to. They can't, whatever. Anything else in Wheeling?
Yeah, we have a second question here. My name is David Bender. This is in relation to special library membership and the standard about a bibliographically organized collection. Our collection is completely online, consisting of 30 to 35 different databases that students can access through their library portal, but it is not, quote, bibliographically organized, which has kept us from membership because it's, it's all online searching, it's all electronic.
And that
What
actually,
Fascinating
David.
question.
Yeah, we've had that question. Actually, I've talked with Dave. I
Okay.
don't know if you remember me,
Yes.
David, but we actually
Yes.
talked.
Of course he remembered you.
But yeah, and the other piece of this is helping, because David is not the only an academic library had the same question at another point in time. But